A family in crisis. Today our gospel reading is a family in crisis, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And as the gospel tells us there, Herod is out to kill Jesus. And Joseph becomes aware of this, and under the cover of night, they flee to Egypt. On this feast of the Holy Family, a great celebration for us to give thanks for our families and to recall the first family, that Holy Family. But it does seem interesting, of course, that on this feast day of the Holy Family, you think they might put a gospel reading in there that's nice and peaceful. That Holy Family perhaps sitting at home playing a nice board game or something. But instead, our gospel has them on the run for their life under cover of night as we celebrate this great feast of the Holy Family. I suppose it's fitting, of course, as the church put it there, it is fitting. Perhaps that's something we can all relate to very easily, a family in crisis. We all like to pretend we have nice, beautiful, wonderful families, and yes, it's true at times, but we also know if we're human beings, our families have been in crisis at times, or perhaps even currently. And so we can relate to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in times of difficulty. I can't say my personal family has ever been at risk of someone hunting us down or that I ever knew of, but there has been tough times, even in my own home and my own family. And again, if we're human beings, I think that's true for every household. As we strive to have good families in the church and in our society and in our culture, we can say that's the basic building stone of any culture and, of course, of our church. We need healthy, strong families if we want a healthy, strong church and a good culture. It starts with the family. Again, secular society or politicians may not admit that or see that, but as a church, as human beings, we can see that, or we know that. In our effort to build good, strong families, we can say the first building component there is our efforts to build good, strong marriages. And yes, it takes work for all of us. It's a job, it's a duty, it's a responsibility, it's work, sweat and blood for all of us to develop good marriages, to develop good families. And yes, we all fall short sometimes, but we must continue to work and build those good families and those good marriages. We also know the old saying, a family that prays together stays together. And of course, that's why you're here this morning, because you believe that to some degree, that by your prayers, your family is strengthened. And by coming to church together or even praying at home, there is a very special and a real bond that prayer does for families. And we know even celebrating the Eucharist here together this morning, we are bonded together as a believing family, as a church family. Our prayers unite us. And of course, with the prayers at home, that's also very important and very true. I suppose some people might be sitting there thinking, what does a priest know about marriage and family? And so let me attempt to give you a few answers to that. First of all, I did come from a family. People often think priests just kind of fall out of the sky from somewhere and here they are celebrating Mass. Well, priests come from families, so let me put that out there first. It's also true that through a priest's prayers, we believe that prayers bring insights and bring us wisdom, and so we do believe that priests should be men of prayer, and so by their prayers they bring us their wisdom and their thoughts from that. Of course, also the celebration of the sacraments that a priest celebrates and does and says. Of course, confession, sacrament of marriage, and sacrament of baptism, and all the sacraments that we celebrate as priests. That's how we engage marriages and engage families, and we do become knowledgeable. It's also true that in the seminary we have courses on marriage and family, and I think as priests we do our best to stay up to speed on current trends and current problems and current successes of marriages and families. That's, we might say in the professional world, that's something we should be doing. A good professional stays up to speed on what's current in their field, and so that's true for priests, or should be. And of course, we're constantly talking with people who are married and in families. I forget which pope it was or which church document it was, but somewhere it says that priests are to be experts on humanity. Priests are to be experts on marriage and family. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say I'm the smartest guy in the world about marriage and family because the church document says that, but I think it's true that as the lay folks, we should have or for all of us, looking to priests for good advice and for good insights. That's what priests should be doing. Also, by calling priests experts, it's also, I think, a way to challenge us priests. That if we're not experts on these things, well, we should be striving to be experts on marriage and family, on issues that impact humanity. That's something we're challenged to do. Yes, we'll fall short, but it's something we're, again, striving to do or should be. In our efforts to build up good families, I think one basic component, of course, praying together. Another very obvious thing is simply spending time together. I know that sounds so obvious why I say it, but I think you agree we need to say it. And we might even say quality time together. We can all sit in the same house and stare at different TVs, and you can say, well, that's not really building up the family, but doing things together as a family, even talking with each other, showing interest in each other. Even if we think our family is boring or not as exciting as the neighbors next door, God has put us in our family for a reason, and we need to invest our time and our energy in our own families, making those efforts to build up, enhance, and develop the goodness of our family that God has put us into. I think also in that sense that spending time with grandparents, I think people would agree that that's also a very important thing to do. Powerful experience, a family spending time with the grandparents. There's something very special and meaningful about that. And then also, too, you might say on the other end of the spectrum is spending time with the little newborn babies, celebrating, encouraging, promoting people having little babies in the family. That also brings people together. It gives something very special to celebrate, a little baby to take care of, a little baby to play games with. There's something very bonding about that in a family. We also know in reflecting on family life for children, and that's all of us, we've got parents and grandparents. As you know, one of the 10 Commandments is to honor your father and your mother. And so I think that also needs to be said on this Feast of the Holy Family, as Jesus would have done it perfectly, being respectful to his mother and father, Mary and Joseph. We also are challenged to do that, especially our young children, but it's true for us no matter how old we are, showing respect and reverence for our parents. As far as respect and reverence, I don't think it's also worth saying for marriages, married couples, husbands and wives. Yes, you should be best friends, if you can be, or that's one of the goals, or that's a good sign of a solid marriage. But I think it's also true, sometimes it seems couples get a little too overly casual with each other or speaking about each other. And again, we all naturally do that. The people we live with, the people we spend lots of time with, it's always very tempting. We become very casual, perhaps overly familiar. And I think perhaps challenging all of us, showing a greater respect and reverence and care and attentiveness to your spouse. That taking them for granted, or again, getting overly casual in how we speak to them or about them, waters down the dignity and the beauty of marriage and family. In the documents of the Second Vatican Council, the Church taught us that each family or each home can be called a domestic church. So each and every one of your homes, each and every one of your little families out there is a little church. And all those little churches make up the big church. And that's one of the building components. So of course, by the council saying that, it shows obviously love and respect for those little families out there. It also challenges each family, each home to look like or to be a little bit of a church. And so therefore, the way we behave, even at home, the things we have hanging on the walls, even at home, should remind us a little bit of church. Now, while I'm promoting family, and I could spend hours here and all of us cheering on the goodness of family and churchgoers, we know this, but I might also caution all of us, there is sort of a balance that has to be struck, that if you overplay the family card, so to speak, before long we start sounding like or looking like little mafia families. That it's not everything for the good of the family. Church, the scriptures, Jesus, they outrank family matters, so it's good to say that for everybody, especially around Christmas time. Yes, have a love for your family. Yes, do what you can for your family, but keep it in perspective. We can't do immoral or unethical things hoping to build up family unity, or in the name of the family go out there and start shooting people. As we know, that's not right. That's out of hand. That's no longer the proper understanding of family. And so on this feast day, we give thanks for our families. We pray for our families. Every time we celebrate the Eucharist, we celebrate as a parish family. We pray for our little families at each and every Mass. Each time we celebrate and receive the Eucharist, we give thanks for the family. In closing, I'll just encourage you to pray the Rosary together as a family. Even if you only do it once in your life, I would still invite, encourage, beg you to do that as a family. Pray the Rosary. I decided a few weeks back or a month ago to pray the Rosary with the 7th graders in CCD. And of course I was a little nervous about how it might go over, if they would reject the idea or squirm in their chairs so much that it would become pointless. So what I did, and I think it worked, and maybe you can try this at home, but with my iPhone I was able to pull up the app Laudate, and then somehow found some guy was saying the Rosary on there, so I turned that on, and they said they liked his voice, and so I used that one. And then while we were praying the Rosary, I was able to pull up my Instagram pictures and rotated some of those religious pictures while we prayed the Rosary. And also, too, in the 5 decades of the Rosary, it was something like this. The first decade we stood, the second decade we sat, the third decade we knelt, the fourth decade we walked around the room slowly, and then on the 5th decade of the Rosary we sat down with our eyes closed while we prayed the Rosary together. And interestingly, I was happy with the outcome. They all remained peaceful and cooperative. In fact, I think they even enjoyed it.